Before we get underway with this commentary, today is February 9th, which means that this is the day that, hey, say it with me, Joker is going to get a whole bunch of awards, right? Right? Or maybe you're a fan of the international scene like I am, and you're interested in seeing Parasite get all the awards. But because today is Oscar Sunday, today is the day that everything goes down, I'm gonna do my best to get this video out as quickly as possible, just breeze through this topic, so I can get back to watching a whole bunch of material that, I will be honest, is not actually really Oscar-related at all. I'm on a huge binge of anime, which is not new, and K-drama, which is sort of new. That's not even vaguely related to Parasite at all. It's just different languaged media. It's not even the same medium. But let's talk today about some hockey. Talk about some players and talk about a guy who's popped up in the trade rumor scene that, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't envision myself talking about this guy in this kind of way at all about a year ago. So, this article came out on tsn.ca talking about different trade rumors, countdown to the trade center, talking about, in one particular fashion, the Winnipeg Jets. And they talked about Kyle Connor, who is a player that the Winnipeg Jets are in a position to potentially deal in the eyes of the media, because he's got a long-term contract, he's a really good 30-goal scorer, he's a good NHL player. Let's talk about this right here. Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press reported a rumor involving the Winnipeg Jets and Kyle Connor, about which a source said it has legs. McIntyre added that he doesn't believe the Jets will trade Connor, who is in the first year of a 7-year, $50 million contract, nor does he believe the Jets are actively shopping the 23-year-old. But he also added that it takes talent to land talent, and Connor could potentially land a solid D-man. McIntyre said the main name connected to Connor is Colorado Avalanche prospect Bowen Byram. Now that blows my mind. Almost in the same way as Joker receiving 11 nominations blew my mind when I initially saw that, because I was a big fan of the movie and I was like, yo, there's no way they're gonna praise this movie. It's all about mental stuff, and yeah, but boy oh boy, they did it. They gave it the nominations, and it could potentially win Best Picture. Oh yes, I'm also a really big comic book guy, so that's also feeding into my obsession here, but this news of Bowen Byram being a potential name linked to Kyle Connor is something that has been building and building and building, and the reason I've been saying that is because for weeks now, the media has been placing Bowen Byram's name in there, slightly, when it comes to trade discussion and trade rumors. Colorado, oh, they're doing really well right now. They could potentially use a rental. And the guy who's going to get them that rental, the guy that's going to get them a long-term player to stick with them on the forward core, it's going to be Bowen Byram. And Avs fans have been really upset, because he's a guy that, understandably so, a lot of the Colorado Avalanche fan base absolutely adores. This guy could be the second coming of Cale Makar, believe it or not. They're not the same skill set, but the potential and the ceiling is there. And it's because of that reason that Avs fans are kind of upset that Bowen Byram would probably be on the trading block. And it's actually kind of funny, because Winnipeg Jets fans are equally upset that Kyle Connor is being talked about in this light too. Because Winnipeg is in a position where they could probably use Kyle Connor for the next 7 years. He's a good offensive forward who can just change the game dynamically with his abilities. But at the same time, if you were to ask me, you could say that the value is low-key kinda equal there. Because Byram, let's be real, he's only 18, he's only a prospect. The impact that a Bowen Byram has on an NHL team today is definitely not the same as the impact that a Kyle Connor would have. Down the line, Bowen Byram might be more valuable, yes, but at the same time, Kyle Connor's still going to be valuable too. So the fact that the ages are a little bit different, but the talent is still very good on both of these assets, it speaks to me that the trade value is roughly the same. And I say roughly because it's very, very rough. So what we have here is a trade rumor involving Byram and Connor, where both the fan bases of the Avs and the Jets are equally pissed off. This is what the first comment here on Reddit has to say. So what I gather is both Jets and Avs fans hate this trade, which means that it's a fair trade. And honestly, it is kind of true that the values would be kind of equal in my mind, but at the same time, you could totally understand why either side would be like, no, we're not prying away from Kyle Connor or Bowen Byram. But being real, there is an incentive to understand why either side would do this at the same time. Obviously, Winnipeg, if you're looking from their point of view, they're just barely in the playoffs. Arizona is tied with them, and it's very, very close. So the guarantee that they make the playoffs and actually do something isn't necessarily there, and also, they could use a few more good defender prospects. They already have Ville Heinola, who stepped in earlier this year. They have Sami Niku, who is not even a prospect anymore, but he's also a young guy there. And from the perspective of that, you can understand why they would want to go after a Byram, because Byram is literally Bowen Byram. On the flip side, though, for the Colorado Avalanche, you can take a look at it and say, yeah, Kyle Connor is locked up for a really long time. The guy is a really good player, and Bowen Byram has kind of taken a step back. Now, I love Bowen Byram as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to sit here and say that he's been as good as people thought he would be. Bowen Byram this year isn't doing nearly as well. He's at 30 points in 37 games played, which is a big step down points per game wise than his 71 and 67 last year as a 17-year-old. He's only got 5 goals this year too, which is a huge step down because he got 26 goals in those 67 games last year. Everything Bowen Byram has kind of slowed down, which is not great. But at the same time, scoring in general for D-men has been down in the WHL this year, so I'm not going to only say that it's Byram. It's everybody out there. Ty Smith, Jet Wu, all of those guys have kind of taken a step back. So, from an Avs point of view, what you're taking a look at is the potential of a Bowen Byram, and you're saying, no, I don't want a Kyle Connor because the potential of Byram is so much higher. And from the Jets' point of view, you're taking a look at it and you're saying, yeah, well, I like Connor way too much. Why would I give that up for a potential number 1 D-man who isn't guaranteed to get there? So it's a very fair idea from both sides, in my opinion, but at the same time, as easy it is to see why one team would want to do this, it's easier to see why another team would not want to do this, and why the fans are generally pretty pissed off that people are even talking about this. Heck, I'm part of the problem. But I guess we can take a look at this and actually acknowledge the fact that Bowen Byram still does have a ton of potential, and he still is going to be a really good player. It's just the numbers this year haven't been a great sign of upward development because he's literally going backwards. But as we mentioned, it's like that for everybody in the WHL who is a scoring D-man. For some reason, it's a weird year where all the forwards, the U18 guys are doing really well, but the high-scoring D-men, they're kind of taking a step back. So, ultimately, what is it that you think? Because I've been seeing a lot of people on both sides of the fence really not liking this at all, but for somebody who isn't really a fan of either of these teams, I can totally look at it and say, yeah, that kind of does make sense. And I know Colorado fans are just drooling over the idea of Byram and Makar together as one pairing because, oh my goodness, that would be deadly. But Kyle Connor is a really good player too. It's kind of like Alex Newhook. His best case scenario is becoming a player who is similar to a Jack Hughes in terms of the playing style, but in terms of the effectiveness out there on the ice, it's like a Kyle Connor. Seriously. If Alex Newhook can become what a Kyle Connor is, then that would be considered a really good pickup at, 15th? No, 16th overall. So, there's a lot to think about, but in general, this is the idea. So what do you think? I said my piece, I want to hear you say yours. Hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.